Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the MCU Perspectives What If Edition. And today we're going to be discussing episode 21 of Marvel's What If. What if the Red Guardians stopped the Winter Soldier? Now, like I said last week, we have here two Captain America adjacent characters, both of whom with their own unique and distinct backstories, but with a few similarities here and there. First, we have the Red Guardian, Mother Russia's answer to Captain America. Having managed to replicate the Super Soldier Serum, they wound up giving it to a guy named Alexei, who went on to become their pride and joy, their champion. He got action figures, he was a superhero, until he was eventually sidelined, thrown into an undercover operation where he acted as Natasha Romanoff's adoptive father, so to speak, and after he completed that mission, he was basically just thrown away into prison and forgotten about for years, until he eventually was broken out during the events of Black Widow. And then on the other side, you have the Winter Soldier, a brainwashed Bucky Barnes who was kidnapped during the events of World War II, and who for years has been doing operations of whoever needed him, and usually having his mind wiped each time due to it thanks to a certain command phrase. And ultimately, while he managed to break free during the events of Captain America: The Winter Soldier, as Steve Rogers managed to stir enough gray matter in his head to make him remember who he was, well, for years he was kind of a terror, and he did a few dubious things under the control of the Red Room and other such notorious organizations. With one such mission being a very pivotal moment for the Avengers, as one moment that definitely kind of helped divide the team later was that he was the one who murdered Howard Stark, as he was under a mission to get this formula or whatever from Howard Stark, and he was told no witnesses. And so after he secured the formula, he wound up shooting Tony's parents in the head and just kind of left them, with no one knowing that he was the one that did it until years later. However, what if something happened during the mission? What if something happened to not only save the lives of the Stark parents, but also wound up compromising the Winter Soldier's mission? Which is where we get to this episode, as what the point of divergence between this reality and the main MCU was when the Red Soldier was tasked with getting his job. It was when the Red Soldier was given his job to, go undercover in Ohio. As in this reality, he said, fuck that. After all, he's the Red Guardian. He's supposed to be Mother Russia's greatest champion and all that crap. He doesn't want to go undercover and just be a tech worker or something. He wants to be out in the action and so forth. And sure enough, as he's complaining to his superior, who I think is Dragov, about not wanting to be just shuffled away, well, that's when Dragov gets a call and is told when the package would be in position, so to speak. Again, this is probably not the exact dialogue, but otherwise, this is the mission that would lead to the death of Howard Stark. And the Red Guardian hears Dragov get the Winter Soldier on it, and, well, the Red Guardian, well, he's not gonna do anything about that. So he decides that he wants to prove himself, and so he basically volunteers himself to go on the mission and essentially act as backup, pretty much. And Dragov pretty much just lets him do it. As such, he basically just goes in full civilian garb, gets on a plane, and goes over to America, while the Winter Soldier is basically just prepped and ready, and both are put into action as the night of the Starks car accident occurs, and both the Red Guardian and the Winter Soldier run in to do it. And of course, the Winter Guardian's portion of the mission goes off without a hitch, as he manages to get the formula before he gets ready to shoot Howard Stark in the head. Which is when the Red Guardian intervenes, because the thing is, their orders were to just get the formula. They weren't supposed to kill anyone, but the Winter Soldier was given the order of no witnesses. So it's his job to silence anyone before they can, talk about what they've seen here today. As such, this does lead to the Winter Soldier and the Red Guardian duking it out right there on the street, and as a result, this causes enough of a delay in the Winter Soldier's mission that the police end up arriving, and both Russian agents have to run into the woods just to get away from them. And unfortunately, in the midst of the scuffle, some of the package that the Winter Soldier was meant to get kind of didn't survive. As if you remember the events of Captain America: Civil War, which I don't because I've seen the movie, it's been a while since I've seen the movie. There were these three bags of them that were supposed to contain the serum to create other super soldiers, I think. I don't know. I think it was supposed to be creating things like the Winter Soldier. I don't know. Again, I'd have to go back and rewatch Captain America: Civil War. It's been a while. But point is, two of them got ruptured in the fight, so there's only one left. And on top of that, since the Starks are still alive, the mission is considered a failure, which does shake up the Winter Soldier something fierce, but unfortunately, because the mission was a failure, the higher ups for these two agents are telling them, you guys are on your own, have fun. As such, the Red Guardian and the Winter Soldier unfortunately have to just run like hell, but as the police are investigating the scene and the Starks are hauled away to the hospital, we see a government agent arrive on the scene. In this case, Bill Foster, still played by Lawrence Fishburne, and he ends up talking with the first officer on the scene, and Officer Morales, who lets him know about what happened with the Starks, and that while they couldn't see exactly what had happened here. While they couldn't see exactly who ran them off the road and who stole the thing, Howard Stark was able to see the image of two people fighting. And Bill is able to put two and two together and realize that the people fighting were super soldiers, so they're not to be trifled with, especially when he sees the remains of one of those fluid bags already dripping away. As such, Bill Foster just pretty much orders a lockdown on the basically just wanting to set up various checkpoints around the state to try and make sure they can get these super soldiers before they can get away. In the meantime, we cut to the next morning as we see the Red Guardian, as we see Alexei and I'm just gonna call him Bucky are just trying to trying to recoup and figure out what their next move is, which is not easy because Alexei is an idiot. Yeah, he doesn't really know what the word undercover means because everywhere he goes, he pretty much just tries going on and on about the Russian manifesto, about the workers' man's rights, blah, blah, blah. It's like, this is the guy who, in the main MCU timeline, was your pick for an undercover operation. I'm surprised he didn't blow it there, because he does not. Shut up! It's annoying! Like, good lord! Bucky is better at undercover work than this guy. He just blends right in, he's smooth, he's charming, and Alexei can't even order a fucking burger and fries from a fast food place without going on and on about the working man's rights and all that crap. While Bucky just goes in acting all smooth, and the lady at the cash register is all charmed. It's, again, why? Whatever. I'll get to my anger. I'll get to my annoyance on that later. Either way, regardless of Alexei's competency, both he and the Winter Soldier don't really know what to do now. However, Alexei thinks he has an idea. You see, when he accepted this mission, he was able to get the file on it from someone called the Rook. He didn't actually get it from the Rook. It was on Dragov's desk, but it did say that the person in charge of it was the Rook. And so basically, Alexei thinks that if they can find the Rook, then he can get them safe transportation back to Russia, and the mission can at least be somewhat salvaged. As such, with really no other options left, Bucky does go along with this, and so the two of them end up hijacking a Ferrari, and they intend to drive out of the state, but unfortunately, they end up running into one of Bill Foster's checkpoints, and unfortunately, they're not good at hiding it, especially since they can't get their backstory straight, and as such, Bill realizes that these two are the guys they're looking for, so they just bolt right through the checkpoint with police officers and agents just hot on their tail. Well, for the most part, they are able to elude them, though the Red Guardian has to really work overtime to make sure that Bucky doesn't kill anybody. Well, Bill decides that with civilian officers can't do the job, he can, because if you remember, in his heyday, he was Goliath, and he still has the suit because he ends up taking off his government agent suit, and we see that he's wearing it underneath as he grows to giant size and chases after the two super soldiers, which, again, I love. I love this. I love that he's still consistent with that. I like that we're seeing him more, and I still love that his costume is just kind of like an inverse of the Ant-Man costume. It's cool. I love it. No notes. Anyway, he ends up chasing both Bucky and Alexei as they're driving along, and while they do eventually lose him, so to speak, the way they drove ends up putting them right at the edge of a chasm, and realizing there's really no other way out, they both just drive right off of it and crash the car, and as such, hours later, as night falls and agents go in to find the car, they find that it is completely abandoned, since the people driving it were super soldiers, it's presumed they are alive and got away. And sure enough, yeah, they did get away, as we see Alexei and Bucky as they're recouping at a veterinary hospital. And we see that Bucky did at least get a few he got a few bullets in his non-robotic arm, and so Alexei goes to try and help him out, and they both get to talking, and they basically just exchange their backstories, with Alexei talking about how in Russia he was a nobody, how he came from nowhere, his family was just not really that great, but when it came time to get to volunteering for the super soldier program, he volunteered and he became the Red Guardian, and he just thinks that that's really not bad for a nobody. Whereas Bucky talks about how he can't remember anything, since at this point in time, his memories of his real life are, well, hazy at best, non-existent at worst. But the Red Guardian doesn't believe that Bucky has nothing, and as such, he does kind of push him a little to try and remember, telling him to close his eyes and to just try and think back to the last thing he could remember. And while it is a struggle, the Winter Soldier does remember an image of Coney Island. And it's not enough for him to reclaim his identity, but it's enough for him to at least realize that there is a past that he can try to remember. And as a result, it does give him a bit of a better appreciation for Alexei. And as such, as Alexei goes off to try and get them another ride, since, well, Ferrari was trashed, well, that's when the Winter Soldier ends up getting another call from Dragov, who tells him that at this point, Alexei's compromised the mission, and the Winter Soldier now has orders to take him out. Something that, well, Bucky's not exactly happy to do, but he does comply, at least by agreeing to this. Either way, he and Alexei go off, and they try and make their way to the Rook, who apparently was located in Las Vegas. They say it early in their episode, but I just kind of forgot to mention it. As such, they arrive in Las Vegas, and after they go to the hotel that the Rook is staying in, they end up both suiting up in their costumes. They go to his hotel room, and we see who exactly the Rook was. It's Obadiah Stane. Again, it was probably revealed that he was the one that had Howard Stark's parents killed, but yeah, he was the Rook. And which confuses Alexei, because he is American capitalist pig. Why is he the Rook? But yeah, Obadiah basically is angry that they're here, and he reveals that the only reason he gave the Russians that information was because he wanted Howard Stark dead. And because of what the Red Guardian did, Howard Stark is very much alive, eating tapioca pudding in the hospital, and Obadiah now is not in charge of anything Stark related, so he is very much pissed. But as for the Red Guardian, he's kind of having a crisis of conscience here. After all, he believed in the whole he believed in the Russian oligarch, and like I said, the workers' man rights and all that. I know I said that 3 times, but whatever. Point is, he can't comprehend the idea that his higher ups would actively work for as he said, a capitalist pig. And so this gets to him as he realizes that his higher ups really don't have his best interest at heart. They don't believe in his message at all. And likewise, Obadiah talks about how it's only in with democracy and all that stuff. I forget. Hold on one second. Sorry, I was blanking on a very obvious word. It's because of capitalism that a man is entitled to the stuff he's worked for. Although he kind of ruins it by talking about how he can basically abuse the system like hell and just get fat and get buttloads of cash. But through this whole speech, we see Obadiah pull out a gun intent on shooting these 2 super soldiers in the head, since nobody knows they're here. But as he pulls out the gun and tries to shoot the Red Guardian, the Winter Soldier ends up intercepting the bullets, and he ends up knocking Obadiah right out of the window, and well, he's dead. No Ironmonger in this timeline. Good for them. But yeah, at this point, the Winter Soldier and the Red Guardian really don't know what else to do. Made worse by the fact that they see police officers outside that are coming for them. As such, they both make a getaway themselves, and they end up making a run for it, with Bill Foster seeing them and going Goliath again to try and chase them down. Eventually, they end up getting cornered in this, I guess, stadium or warehouse. I forget which one. Point is, they have nowhere else to run, and upon going inside, they look up to see who's been chasing them, and they see a representative of the Red Room there who has the Winter Soldier's file on standby, including his command phrase. So Bucky knows that once that phrase is uttered, he's probably fucked, and he's probably going to want to kill the Winter. He's going to probably he's probably going to want to kill the Red Guardian. And as such, they do end up getting to talking, and the Red Guardian talks about. And the Winter Soldier does at least tell Alexei that he was given the order to kill him, but he doesn't want to do it. Which actually does surprise Alexei, but he realizes, oh, so you really are a good guy. Really are a good guy. You were told to kill me, and yet you didn't let that guy kill me. As such, the Winter Soldier just tells him to run. That maybe he can get this serum all the way back. That he can get this serum back to the higher ups. And the Red Guardian just takes out the chunk of the stuff and smashes it with his shield. Since if his higher-ups are going to betray him, then screw those guys. They're going to treat him as disposable. Well, they're obviously a problem now, and he's not going to work for people like that anymore. As such, he says he wants to try and rebuild himself, and Bucky at least tells him that in America, any man can be whatever he wants to be. And as such, they both kind of have a nice little inherent trust, but again, the representative of the Red Room does try and activate the Winter Soldier, but it turns out the phrases don't seem to be doing anything. He's able to resist enough so that he and Alexei actually are able to fight side by side, and sure enough, they do basically jump out of their hiding spot as police officers, agents, and Red Room representatives all converge on the area. And while we don't end up seeing the fight scene afterwards, apparently they both just try and fight their way out. And for Alexei, he's successful as he manages to get away. The Winter Soldier, however, is recaptured by the Red Room, who basically lock him down again and try and interrogate him to learn what happened to the Red Guardian, but he ain't saying shit. He's pretty much just telling them he died a Russian hero. Hold on a sec. Sorry about that, bad coughing fit. But yeah, like I said, he tells them that the Red Guardian died and he died a hero. But Dragov ain't buying it. There was no body, so he's probably not dead. But again, Winter Soldier ain't saying shit. So as such, they just kind of put him under again, knock him out, reprogram him, and just leave him be until they need him for another mission. But as for Alexei, we see that he has managed to build a better life for himself, as the next time we see him, he's a gym coach, and apparently a brutal one if the kids he's watching are any indicator, as they all look kind of miserable, but he says he'll whip them into shape and they'll make something of themselves and all that crap. But the class is kind of interrupted when Bill Foster arrives on the scene, having tracked him down. Although, he's not here to arrest the Red Guardian. Rather, he ends up handing him back. It turns out he's here for two reasons. One, he's here to give him back his shield, as he lost it during the battle. And as such, Alexei happily takes it back because, well, it's his. He wants to do and he still wants to do the right thing here. But likewise, he asks if he's not being arrested, what is he here for? Well, Bill does realize that Alexei did turn against his higher-ups, so to speak, and since at this point he's now pretty much branded a traitor, he doesn't have anywhere else to go. But Bill thinks that he might have a place for Alexei. And Alexei would be happy to fight for whatever they needed him to. And as such, after doing a heroic pose against an American flag, the episode ends as we cut ahead to years later as we see the Avengers at the Battle of New York and see the Red Guardian happily standing beside them as a founding member. So, there you go. So, my thoughts on the episode? I admit, it's kind of stupid, but I can't say I hated it. I don't know. I guess if I can get to the aspects of the episode that I found legitimately stupid, sadly a lot of that comes down to the Red Guardian. Yeah, for a good chunk of the first half of this episode, I wanted to write this guy off. Like, the last time that I had seen the Red Guardian as a major character in the MCU was in the Black Widow movie, and unfortunately, like I said when I did my vlog on that movie, he didn't leave a good impression in that movie. As in that movie, he was just there. He didn't contribute anything to the plot. He didn't help out in any battles. And any battles he did try to help out, and he wound up with him getting his ass kicked. So when it came down to it, he didn't really add anything to the movie beyond being Natasha's father figure. Otherwise, you could have cut him out and nothing would have changed. If anything, things would have probably gotten a lot smoother if we had just had someone else to tell Natasha and Yelena where Melina was. But in the case of this episode, but what makes the episode, but honestly, but the thing is, this episode was another attempt to try and have him be in the limelight before the Thunderbolts movie, which I will do a vlog on when it comes out. So I was thinking maybe this will actually be nice to see him in his heyday, actually see him being cool, actually trying to kick ass instead of the loser we saw him as in Black Widow. I'll say this. He's a good fighter. Like, holy shit. I can see how this guy could be Russia's answer to Captain America whenever I see him in battle. Because in battle, he kicks ass. He has moves that pretty much will be an even match for Captain America. He's strong, he's smart, he's quick, he can actually handle himself, and he actually does kick ass when he wants to be. It's actually really cool, and I do dig it. But holy shit, he's annoying. Like, oh my God, there were plenty of times in this episode where I just wanted to throttle this guy. Hold on a sec. Sorry, dog came in. Like I said, want to throttle him because he does not shut up about the Russian manifesto, about the workers' men's rights. Again, fourth time I said it. But he just, like, it's not, I understand. You work for Russia. You want to try and preach your ideology to people. And you know what? Fine, whatever. You have your beliefs. You stick by them. It puts you at odds with America, bucko. But hey, I can at least say you're a patriot to the Russian cause, or whatever it is, or comrade. I don't know. I don't know my political terms. Point is, you can call yourself a good Russian, but you are a spy, for God's sake. You need to learn subtlety, and he does not. He's an idiot. There are plenty of times in this episode where I'm surprised that this guy was chosen to be an undercover operative in the Black Widow movie, because he does not know when to be quiet. He doesn't know when to prioritize the mission over preaching his stupid idealism. Like, oh my God, dude, just cram it, shove it, put something down there. We're a gang, I don't care, just stop talking. It annoyed me, and it really pissed me off, and it didn't make him come across as this cool badass that I wanted to see win in the end. I made him come across as annoying. I kind of felt sorry for the Winter Soldier because he kind of had to deal with it. They had to deal with him throughout all this, and I'm surprised that there weren't a few points in the episode where he didn't deck him. He didn't. I'm just like, come on! And on top of that, at several points he ends up hindering the mission. Mainly because he's against killing. Now, I'm not going to say that being against killing is a bad trait, because after all, the Red Guardian is supposed to be a superhero, so he's supposed to be helpful, he's supposed to help, he's supposed to be a good person, and I'll give credit to the episode, and I'll talk about this later. We do at least see the good man in there, and you can see why this is a person that probably would become a regular superhero if given the right circumstances. Because he has an idealistic attitude, and he wants to help people however he can. And so we see that, and that's what ultimately is what gets Tony's parents saved, because he doesn't want to have them killed. He basically just said, we were told, do this, that's all we need to do, we can let them live. And but the problem is, he keeps prioritizing this ideology over doing the mission. When the Winter Soldier pulls out a gun when they're being chased by officers and opens fire on them, he's like, hey, what are you doing? No killing! Which again, I appreciate the ideology. Again, that's a good mentality for a superhero. But there's ways that you can use a gun without killing someone, and you're being chased by the cops, man. You kind of need to defend yourself somewhat. And to be fair, they do find creative ways around that, so I can at least give him that. But when you're actively hindering a mission by your presence, I can kind of see why Dragov wanted him dead. He was just annoying, and I got on my nerves, something fierce. And when he has this coming to Jesus moment where he realizes that his Russian masters were just using him and throwing him away, and that ultimately the system that he fought so hard to protect and preserve was just taking advantage of him and using him up, and he ends up defecting to America. It doesn't feel as grand as it should. I don't feel as attached to this guy as it should. It doesn't feel like he's a character that I should be sympathizing with as one of the main protagonists. He comes across as the annoying comic relief who has somehow fumbled his way into being the main character. I don't know, it's annoying. I don't like it. I'll say again, he's trying. He's trying to be a good person, and I can say in some regard he succeeds, but oh my god, it made watching him in the episode that much harder. With that said, there is a dual side to his naivete, because by virtue of him having this attitude, he's like a wide-eyed child, if that makes any sense. He looks at the world in a kind of black and white system, that his country, his country, his doctrine, all of that is good, and that the people they're fighting against aren't evil per se. They're just ignorant, and that ultimately it's his job to help raise them up and make them better and all that stuff. Again, it's still obviously a flawed system, but he still believes in it, and I'll give credit where it's due. When he does realize that he's kind of working for the wrong people, it does I do at least like that, and it helps encourage his own ideologies, as he realizes that if he really wants to stand for good, then he needs to stand on his own principles, and I like that. And you can kind of see, and the thing is, it kind of helps showcase that how he does actually mean to do well. Like I said when I was talking about what happened in the episode, he's the one that helps the Winter Soldier remember a little bit about his life before becoming the Winter Soldier. He wants to help him out. He wants to try and raise him up and actually kind of help find the man in the monster, so to speak. He doesn't look at the Winter Soldier and see this killing machine that just needs to be pointed at the target and then let go. He sees a fellow, well, for lack of a better term, comrade. Someone that he wants to stand by. Someone he wants to help. And as a result, it does lead to an honestly kind of nice dynamic between them. It does, like I said, it does get annoying at a lot of points, but honestly, I do kind of like I do like their friendship, and the naivete of the Red Guardian in the episode kind of can become endearing at some points, and it does kind of make you see why the Winter Soldier would start to like him and not want to kill him, because while he looks at this guy who looks at the world in such a simplistic view, and he envies him. You can tell that he doesn't want to hurt him, and that he does want to help him stand up. And likewise, the Red Guardian, despite not seeing things in as much of a dark light as the Winter Soldier, he still wants to do the right thing. And likewise, when he does realize who the real bad guys are, he pretty much just goes, "Fuck them! I'm just gonna try and fight for the good fight any way I can." And that's what leads to him defecting for real, and what leads him to fighting alongside the Winter Soldier just so they can get out alive, before that eventually leads him to becoming an Avenger. I honestly do appreciate that, and it becomes a nice little flip side to the really freaking annoying parts of the Red Guardian in the episode, and it does make for an interesting dynamic between them. By the end of the episode, when you see the Red Guardian happily fighting alongside the Avengers, you do feel happy for him, admittedly. I like that he's just so happy to be fighting alongside the other good guys. I like that he basically decides, you know what, I'm gonna fight for America now, and I like that, I like seeing that. Yeah, his attitude is still a rather simplistic one, but the heart is still there, and he is more than capable of being able to fight for it, because that's something I appreciate when you have that kind of mentality. When you see the world as black and white, it lets you kind of help see things it helps give you a better appreciation for the light. And while there are times when you can see a bit of the gray and that can muddle you, ultimately when you have that bit of naivete, it can make you a more positive force. And we see that with the Red Guardian here, as he's ready to rough you into shape. He thinks it's for your own good, and he's ready to he's ready to stand up and fight he's ready to stand up and fight even though it means he could get killed. So in that regard, he's endearing. I do at least like that. And like I said, that dynamic mixed with the Winter Soldier, I think works. As the Winter Soldier, while at first being annoyed by him, does little by little start warming up to him, and when they actually are fighting side by side, they kick ass. They're awesome. It's actually really cool seeing them do that. And so I actually think that, so I do at least like that, and I think that that's the core of what makes the episode work for me. Again, what holds it back, in my opinion, is honestly, the dual side to the Red Guardian, as he's a double-edged sword. He's basically just a double-edged sword at the end of the day. There are parts of him that are annoying, but that not annoying as the flip side of actually showing seeing a genuinely naive person just trying to do the right thing as best as he can. So I like that. It's just, but when it comes down to it, I did still find, but that comes down to it. Despite how annoyed I got with this character as the episode went on, I can't say I hated the episode. And like I said, despite how much I wanted to throttle the guy at some points, I was happy for him in the end. Seeing him find a job as a gym coach, still trying to do the right thing, and eventually being approached to be an Avenger. I actually did appreciate that, and it kind of makes me wonder how things would go in this universe with him as a part of the Avengers. After all, the Winter Soldier is still being used by the Red Room and other such people like Hydra. So why wouldn't? So I kind of like the idea. So it kind of makes me wonder how things like, say, Captain America: The Winter Soldier would go in this universe. Would the Red Guardian remember the Winter Soldier? Would he help Steve Rogers to try and bring him back? What side would he join during the Civil War? I don't know. I'm interested in these things. These are questions that I'm asking, and I would love to know the answers to. Odds are we're never going to get those answers, but it's an interesting thought. These are interesting things to think about, and I kind of would love to see, and it would be kind of fun to see his dynamic with the Avengers, honestly. So, in that regard, I think the core of the episode is dumb and kind of annoying, but there's a light to it that does still make it honestly endearing in my eyes. On top of that, again, the action is still fun. I like it, and like I said, and kind of like when I went into, I love the dynamic between the Winter Soldier and the Red Guardian in the episode. I think it's kind of a nice one. It's a nice one. You can see why the Red Guardian helps kind of bring out the best parts of the Winter Soldier too. And I like that we get some more. I like that we get more Bill Foster. That was fun. I thought he was fun. Again, it's Lawrence Fishburne, and it's still Lawrence Fishburne doing him, so I'll dig that. I like the action. It's still really damn cool. I love the stuff with Obadiah Stane in there. It's a small little thing, but it is kind of fun to see him get his just desserts, so to speak. When it comes down to it, overall, I think the episode is stupid, but it's a fun stupid that does have a light to it that does, I think, ultimately make it enjoyable in its own regard. It has a naivete to it that can kind of get it, that definitely can grate on you at certain points. But at the end of the day, you can't be too angry at it, because at the end of the day, it's clear that everybody means well, and I think that's all that matters. So, yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. I thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson. If you disagree with me on this, I totally understand, but I hope you enjoyed the video regardless. And next week, we're going to look at an episode that, let's just say, I am unprepared for, but I'm crossing my fingers. I really don't know what I'm going to be walking into with this one. So, till then, I hope you have a good Wednesday, and take care.